Welcome back to Killer Fun, where we explore the intersection of crime and entertainment every other week. I'm Christy.
And I'm Jackie.
And today we are talking about Dexter-New Blood.
Finally.
The most endearing serial killer is back.
Yes.
After faking his own death, and he has turned over a new leaf.
A new leaf. Faking?
He faked his own death.
I don't know.
They thought he was dead.
I know.
They thought he died in the...
But I don't know that he intended to fake it.
Oh, I think he did.
I think he failed at killing himself.
Oh.
I think he was surprised to weather that storm and end up alive and be like, well, what now?
Uh-huh.
I don't know.
That's
because I don't know that they were explicit.
My impression was that it was... He
fake?
was running away, faking. If he died in the storm, so be it. But that wasn't really his intention.
Okay, yeah,
that was
that's
how
like right down the middle
of
our
that like if he died, he died. If he made it through,
he made it through.
He would. That meant that he could turn over a new leaf somewhere else.
That makes sense. That's both of our perspectives all mashed together into one. I like
it.
Yeah. It's canon now.
Yeah, there we go. It's in my head. It's canon. So. All right, let's talk about this cast.
Yes.
We've talked about some of them before. Michael C. Hall is Dexter/Jim. And, of course, he was Dexter in the original series. But he was also President Kennedy in The Crown. I think it was just a single episode, but he played JFK, which I thought was really cool.
I don't remember this. And I watched The Crown.
It was like one episode in like... it was a season I haven't seen 3 or 4 or something.
I'm just going to have to go and seek that out because I didn't know.
Oh, yes.
Of course, he's like a rock star now.
Well, of course.
That's his big thing. And they're going on tour. And they have the craziest band name like ever.
What is it?
I can't pronounce it. I can pronounce it. It's just very, very hard to say.
Well, spell it for us.
Okay, here we go. Are you ready? Uh-huh. Princess Goes to the Butterfly Museum.
Oh, Princess Goes to the Butterfly Museum.
Yes, that's the band name, not an album name. Yes.
Okay, cool.
Princess Goes to the Butterfly Museum. It's an alternative album, and they're going on tour.
Very cool. Let's see. We've also seen Jennifer Carpenter before. She reprises her role as Dexter's sister, Deb. Yeah, we'll talk about that. She's done several series since the end of Dexter, including a TV adaptation on CBS of Limitless, which was a movie. They did a television series of it. And then a show on NBC called The Enemy Within. And she's set to star in a thriller series called Ballistic.
Oh.
But I guess they're crowdfunding it.
Oh.
So it hasn't been funded just yet.
Interesting. Sounds indie.
But now that she's signed on, maybe it will. Maybe it will. Maybe it'll make.
I could see her in a crime thriller kind of role. I mean, I know that sounds ridiculous. Hold on. Of course Dexter was a crime thriller. But I mean, I could see her in a crime thriller where she's like the lead.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, not a supporting character.
Right, and not that she was so much just a supporting character.
Yeah.
I don't know how to describe it, because I don't know what kind of show this is going to be, but I could see her in a procedural, but I could also see her in a long-run format, like The Killing.
Oh, yeah.
Or something like that, like on the law enforcement side.
Right. Which I think she was The Enemy Within. I think she was law enforcement adjacent. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, that's cool. It's cool.
Then we have Jack Alcott, who plays Harrison.
Introducing.
Yeah, I mean, he's done a bunch of short films, but his big break was in another Showtime drama that was set around the U.S. Civil War called The Good Lord Bird, and it starred Ethan Hawke, which I haven't seen.
I have not seen it either.
I'm not a big Western fan. No, I'm not. And that's kind of a Western-y sort of thing, but cool.
It's uber Ethan Hawke.
Yeah. Julia Jones plays the police chief, Angela. Mm-hmm. She also played Leah Clearwater in the Twilight movies.
Yes.
And then Michael Cyril Crichton. I had to mention him because he is Frank Jr., who runs the sporting goods store and a dog adopter. And I mention him because he was mourning the loss of a pet in another show that we've covered. He was Howard, who lost his beloved cat Evelyn in Only Murders in the Building.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm. I didn't even put that together.
No, I didn't either. And until I was looking through his IMDb.
And you're like, oh,
I'm like,
him.
Who else do I have to mention? Is there like a smaller character that I need to mention?
That's so funny.
Yes, there is. Mm-hmm. Shall I recap it?
Yes. And full disclosure, you and I have both seen this to the end.
Yes.
And we're just covering episode 1.
Right.
But we told you last time that I don't know that we can keep it in those boundaries. So just, you know what, disclaimer for me. I apologize. I may not be able to keep it in.
Yeah.
But let's recap this episode.
Okay.
All right,
this episode, I'll recap.
Okay.
So Dexter is no longer in Miami, and there's something else unusual about him other than a frenzied run in a snowy forest. He has a gun, which if you'll remember in the original Dexter series, he was a knife man through and through.
Yes.
But Dexter doesn't shoot the rare white stag that he has in his sights. It's the thrill of the chase, surprisingly, that is enough. Lest you think that Dexter is healed, he is still very much broken and sees vivid hallucinations of his sister Deb, who is, of course, not alive. She got shot in the last episode of the Dexter original run.
And she got a burial at sea like all the rest of the victims.
That's right. Despite some suspicious behavior, which is sharpening a cleaver that turns out to be for the local butcher, Dexter is going by the name Jim Lindsay and is well known and liked in the small town of Iron Lake, New York. He has a girlfriend who just happens to be the chief of police. This isn't a story about mild-mannered Jim living a quiet life. Matt Caldwell comes to town, and while he's new to Dexter, everybody in town knows this spoiled rich kid. And after an FBI flag delays Matt's purchase of an expensive weapon from the sporting goods store where Dexter/Jim works, the dark passenger comes out of hiding and is seeking justice and blood.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
There we go.
Perfect.
So audiences and critics agree this is a solid C. It's a 77%.
And it is worth mentioning that includes watching it through.
Right. It does.
People do have thoughts about the ending of this whole scenario. So I wonder how much that really plays in.
Right.
I think the first episode, however, was like a solid A. Mm-hmm. Like, I think it really lifted off well.
Well, the first episode, we watched it and we were like, this is really good.
It's really good.
And then there were some episodes throughout that we were like, oh, that was a really good episode.
Yeah.
I would say it had a lot of peaks and valleys.
Yeah, it did.
I'm going to try and be as judicial as I can. We're going to call it peaks and valleys.
I like it. I like it.
My husband said it sounded a little bit like it seemed a little bit like a CBS drama, which is not a compliment from my husband.
I love how you can say something so, benign and be so harsh at the same time.
It was mean. It was a mean thing to say. But it wasn't untrue.
Oh, no, I don't discount it.
No.
I thought the same thing. I did your peaks and valleys. It was like there was moments where the show really kind of shined, and there was others where it felt like it was trying to reclaim a little glory, but just wasn't.
And then it felt like sometimes like they were just dragging it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're like, oh, shoot, we promised them 10 episodes.
Right.
And I was like...
It's like they just didn't want to do it.
Well, it's funny that you say that. We'll get there.
Okay.
All right. So Michael Adoto from the Sydney Morning Herald basically says that everything that's good about it is due to Michael C. Hall.
Oh, true.
If you ever wondered if the reason why Dexter works as a narrative is that Hall effortlessly blends naive innocence with psychopathic horror of an amoral killer, then Dexter-New Blood is confirmation of that.
Yeah. Oh, that's what's always been interesting about him is his ability to actually explore somebody who is aware of his own psychosis.
Yeah. Yes.
And navigate that and wonder how much choice we actually have in our in our empathy and our compassion, because there's a little bit of an empowerment. If we have choice in it, then we can learn to be better. If we don't have choice in it, the world is very, very scary. And so he personifies every bit of that.
Yeah, that's...
He also, okay.
Super fair.
I know I talk about you all the time.
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
Even which magazine that wrote about us and said, yes, there's lots to talk about you.
You mean Cosmo?
Yeah, Cosmo. They wrote about it and was like, basically they were saying, we talk about you a lot. And I know, I hear it. It's always me bringing this up. Okay, but here's the thing. The shows have one parallel that I think works, and I don't know that many people can pull it off, is that narrative.
Yes.
That internal monologue, whether it's shot or whether you hear, Michael C. Hall actually saying it to himself.
Right.
Either way, it's the internal narrative and the monologue that makes it so interesting.
Yeah, and it's not an easy thing to do well.
No, it's just not.
No. Richard Roper from the Chicago Sun-Times. Mostly, though, Dexter-New blood could use a transfusion of excitement and edge, which I thought was fair. CBS drama and all. There's nothing really new under the hood other than the comfort of nostalgia, said Jeffrey Zhang of Strange Harbors. And Jeremy Johns in his review website was a little easier. He said, there are hundreds of questions I'm asking myself, but the best thing is I'm asking those questions. I'm interested enough, engaged enough to ask those questions.
That's a very poignant way of putting it.
So Jesus Garcia from Boston University wrote a review for Study Breaks of the whole series. We don't know yet. He said it started with an amazing story building and an introduction to a fascinating cast of characters coming from 8 seasons of warm, humid, and crowded Miami. The switch to cold, small town of Iron Lake felt like the change of pace the show needed, which I totally agree. Mm-hmm. And then he complains about the end. He basically says that there's wasted potential, that there was a lot of ways they could have satisfyingly wrapped up the series, or at least the season.
Yep.
And they did not.
Yeah, I feel like they really did. They just shut it down and was like, are you satisfied now? Be quiet. Stop bugging us.
All you did was complain about it.
Oh, come on.
So Clyde Phillips, who's the showrunner, talked to Michael C. Hall about returning as Dexter Morgan. And it turns out they both knew at that time how the season would end.
Right.
They knew what was coming at the end of the season, and Michael C. Hall signed up without hesitation.
Okay.
So he knew.
I've heard him say that he was happy with it.
Yeah. He might be the only one. But
well, you can be happy with what you think is going to happen, but when it's all done and the editing floor is full and it's cut and sent, I'm not sure that might be the same thing as what he thought he was signing onto.
That's fair. All right. So you said you felt like it was just like getting it over with.
Yeah, it did. It felt like that a little.
Okay, but Clyde Phillips, the showrunner, did an interview with Esquire magazine, and he said it's up to Showtime to make the call if they want more. If they ask me, I'd like to make a continuation of this. I would say yes. I have a lot of things going on, but I would drop everything for this and say yes in 1 second.
Oh.
So he would be willing to keep it going.
All right.
So it's interesting that it feels like a rush to you, or like a just like get it done to you situation, because it's not what he says.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah.
I don't, it is hard to pinpoint what feels like a rush about this show.
Well, because it doesn't feel rushed, it feels drawn out. But it also feels like they're just like, are you done yet? Can we?
I think it's the subplots that felt rushed and tied up.
Okay.
And in ways that didn't further the main story.
Okay.
Right. So that yes, there was a drawing out of things. So where you're like, okay, this is about to get real complex, and we're about to see like the the ooh moment before the next season's going to drop. And instead it was like riding off into the sunset with a lot of subplots kind of hastily tied up. Mm-hmm. And so, so all at once it feels rushed and really slow.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. Well, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with Is It True, Psychology Break, and Real Life.
So here's how it works. Christy wrecks her search history. Hey, an essay. We promise it's nothing more nefarious than a podcast. To find out what's true, some of the psychological motivations behind the characters' actions, and real-life applications that relate to our topic. I have no idea what Christy decided to look up. Could be the same thing that captured my curiosity or something I never thought of.
Is it true? White stags?
Yeah, please talk to me about this.
They're real and they're rare.
Okay.
But because they're rare, when one is seen, wildlife watchers, collectors of folklore, and the hunting community all get real excited.
Yeah.
Yeah. So The Guardian had an article about this back in 2008.
Okay. Wow.
A while ago.
So good. So this is a real thing. And it did feel like this was like Dexter's private little hunt, that nobody knew that he kept chasing this thing, that he knew it was out there, and others were like, we'd love to see it. We'd love to see it. And he was like, I know where it is. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is why it felt like he could hunt this and have it be satisfying enough just to chase it and not shoot it, because it was so rare.
And it was, I got the impression when he found it, its presence was actually calming to him.
Yeah.
So he got the thrill of like the chase of the dark passenger, but then he got that moment of like nature calming him down and recentering him.
Yeah, that's fair.
Gave him his own private secret that was kind of safe.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was doing good.
He was.
Spoiled rich kid coming in town.
I know.
Bring out Dexter.
Yep. So white stags, they're caused by a recessive gene, which causes their pigment in their hair and skin to either have no color at all or to be just real muted. So it kind of looks like a ghost.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
is this albino? Is that a
I don't
know what that, I know what it means, but I just don't know how it applies.
I don't think that the white stags are technically albinos because they don't have the red eyes. It's just a recessive gene that makes their color either completely white or muted.
Okay, gotcha.
Because they're rare, it was believed that to kill such a rare animal that's also a sacred animal would curse the person who kills it forever.
Yeah.
Which, makes sense coming by what happens later in the episode. And some legends will say that they can't be caught.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unicorn.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Basically, so it's sort of this like legendary thing, but then there was one in the Scottish Highlands, like in 2007, and poachers shot it, hung its body from a tree, and removed its head for a trophy. I mean, you gotta think those people are cursed.
Oh, forever.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's so interesting. It's interesting because the wildlife people are trying to, they want to study them and watch them in their natural habitat. Yeah. And then there's people who believe they have these mystical abilities, which we have no evidence of that.
No,
but it's
I love
fun.
how they shot it to almost make it seem like this mystical
thing. Even though I would say the animation on that was so at best.
I actually thought when I first saw the sequence that it was a dream sequence, and that's why it felt so fake. To find out that it was actually a real thing that was out there.
Yeah,
but I see it as that's his perspective. When he's there and sees it, he's in that weird dream, like,
that's
lucid
generous
state. And so that's kind of how I took it. But that's because I took it as a dream state that I found out was real later. And I was like, oh, I see what they did there.
Okay.
I don't know. It wasn't,
that's generous. That's fine. I'll do that.
I am unabashedly biased.
Yeah, which is fine. So Dexter was fishing in the ice And I was like, I've never seen anybody fish like that. It's called tip-up ice fishing, where they basically put frozen bait down into a hole drilled into ice. And then when the bait is taken, the flag flies up, and then you can go pull whatever took the bait out of the water.
It's something I've never wanted to do, ever.
It looks really cold.
Ever.
I'm happy to watch it on Dexter.
But I have never been interested in such a thing.
So I got to wondering about Dexter's name that he chose, Jim Lindsay.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, it sounds really familiar.
Yes. Talk about this.
It does, because it's a nod to the novelist who wrote the Dexter series, Jeff Lindsay.
Yes. I was so excited. I had to look it up, too.
Yeah. I was like,
I looked it up because I was like, why is that so? Who? And then I read the article.
Yeah. Very exciting.
Yeah.
Iron Lake, New York. Oh, it's fictional, but there is a real Iron Lake in New York.
But it's not this kind of Iron Lake.
It's an actual lake called Iron Lake.
Oh, okay.
But there's no town called Iron Lake.
Okay.
Yeah. Mental Floss had an article about it, that we had seen Dexter in Oregon.
Yes.
Being a lumberjack.
Right.
Seems like a good fit for him. Like if you're easing out of the killer mindset, but you still got to have the tools. Here's an axe.
Yes.
It's kind of like a knife.
Yeah.
The town is fictional, but there is a lake that is called Iron Lake. But most of the show was shot in Shelburne Falls, Massachusetts.
Okay, it's interesting. I thought it had a Mass kind of feel.
Really?
I did.
Yeah, because you've lived there, so you'd be familiar.
It's what? It was just so East Coast looking. Mm-hmm. And I have an eye for that. I could just tell right off if it's East Coast Pines kind of situation. It just felt like something that was not far off the Appalachian Trail, and so that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. For sure. So while Iron Lake, New York might be a fictional place, the Seneca Nation is very real and in New York.
Super cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. The Seneca Nation of Indians is a federally recognized Seneca tribe based in Western New York. Mm-hmm. So that would have been, they did a good job doing their research to pull in the right stuff. It's the largest of the 6 Native American nations that comprise the Iroquois Confederacy.
Okay.
Their territories are pretty rural, and they do have some residential areas, but about half of their citizenship does not live on a reservation. So
pretty cool. I hadn't heard really of that tribe before.
Yeah, I guess.
The name sounded not unfamiliar, but I knew nothing about that tribe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll have links to it. It'll be fun.
Yes. Good.
Yeah.
Do a deep dive.
So Fred's fishing game is, of course, fictional, but the merch is very real.
No.
You can buy.
Somebody did it?
Oh, Showtime did it.
Oh, that's so cool.
You can go to the Showtime website, and for $30, you can buy yourself a Fred's Fishing Game hat. Though I would say it's going to be a small group of people who are going to recognize that for what it is.
I know. It's like a Gilmore Girls thing. Like, they have stuff for Stars Hollow.
Uh-huh.
And Luke's Diner and all that. I have a Luke's Diner t-shirt. Thanks to my sister-in-law.
Uh-huh.
And, but people recognize that right off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the first rifle that Dexter/Jim suggests to Matt Caldwell, Remington 783, and it is a real rifle. It is built by Remington for the quote-unquote budget market.
Okay.
It was launched in 2013 based on a model design that they acquired in 2007, and it is not a Remington 700 rifle, even though it starts with 700.
Oh, it's not in the series.
It's not in the series. That's a much more expensive weapon. Now, the $9,000 weapon?
Yes, please tell me more about this.
Okay. So they never specifically say what it is in the show. It's kind of left really ambiguous.
I'm so glad you said that, because I felt ridiculous, because I was like, I feel like I should know this, and I couldn't keep up. I couldn't figure out what he was talking about.
Right. He gestures to it, says how much it is, but really that's all Matt Caldwell cares about is he wants it to be expensive so he can show off to his friends. He doesn't care if it's, a really good weapon.
Yeah.
He just cares if it's expensive and fancy looking.
Yeah.
So he can go play with it and be fancy. But it's probably modeled after the Heckler & Koch MR 762A1. Okay. Which runs about $7,200 from RK Guns. So not quite $9,000, but, if you've got a small shop and it's the only place to buy a hunting rifle in the
and
little
you're
town.
Carry like one.
And you're going to
might mark it up.
Yep.
They probably put it up there never thinking it'd sell just to look pretty.
Well, probably. So New York, like many other states in the U.S., does rely on the FBI service for their gun sale background checks.
Right.
So USA Facts had an article about it. Now, the Second Amendment guarantees the right for people to bear arms in the U.S., but there was a Gun Control Act of 1968 that allows the federal government to regulate that right.
Right.
Gun buyers are required to submit to a background check. Most states, like 35 of them, including New York, do use the National Instant Criminal Background Check System, the NICS, which is run by the FBI. It was instituted in 1998, and it has conducted over 300 million background checks since that time.
Wow.
They've had about 3 million denials. Angela, Dexter's girlfriend, was mad because she said that if the flag didn't clear in 24 hours, that it would get an automatic clear, and that allowed people to fall through the cracks.
Oh, gosh.
So that's what she said.
Oh, I didn't remember that. I'm glad you said that. That's interesting.
And she was real mad. She was like, too many people fall through the cracks. If they get backed up and can't research it in 24 hours, then they just get cleared, and that means dangerous people who shouldn't have weapons are able to buy it. So that's not exactly true.
Okay, talk to me about this.
So there's default proceed is a thing that happens sometimes, which basically means the government has 3 days to finish their background check. And if a firearm dealer hasn't been told within 3 days that the sale would violate law in some way, they can go ahead and proceed without.
So it is a loophole, though.
So it is a loophole,
it's 3 days.
But it's 72 hours, not 24.
Not 24.
So when Dexter goes line dancing at the bar, line dancing. Dexter line dancing. I mean, I guess if you're going to change things up in your life, change it all the way up.
If you're going to assimilate.
Yep. But the bartender at that saloon was also a teacher at the school. Yeah, this is not uncommon.
No, not in a small town.
No, not anywhere.
Well, not anywhere. I guess that's true. I tend to think small town, but
yeah. The Texas Standard had an article in 2018 about how many teachers had to take second jobs. Oh. So there was a study that came out that said Texas teachers a lot of them were taking second jobs, and they surveyed about 1,000 educators for this and found that nearly 40% of them needed a second job just to make ends meet.
Yeah.
That over half of the respondents to the survey said they were seriously considering leaving teaching because it paid so poorly. And that the top reason that college graduates don't want to be teachers is because of poor pay.
And do they have a stat in there about something in the first year? I also read something about like the
oh no, they didn't.
The amount of people who actually quit after 1 year is like astounding compared to other career fields.
Yeah,
of course.
Yeah, because it's not great. You got to really have a heart for it.
Yeah. Well, they don't really get to teach, do they?
Well,
I mean, it's just one of those. The system is set up. You know what? The system is actually outputting exactly what it's designed to output. And if they would just recognize that, then they would just change the system.
Right.
But instead, it's all blame game, and whatever. And in the meantime, people are like, peace out.
Right.
But systems output what you design them to output every time.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. And that in terms of money, education is below even social work, which we typically think of as a poorly paid profession. Yeah. All of the sources that we use to inform our discussion here on Killer Fun Podcast can be found on our social media. Join us on Facebook at Killer Fun Podcast, exploring the intersection of crime and entertainment. You can find us on Twitter at Killer Fun Pod, or you can send us an email at killerfunpodcast@gmail.com, and I'd be happy to share a link to whatever information you're looking for. We love to hear from you. You might learn a little something too. All right, so psychology break. Hey, you don't have to be mentally ill to have hallucinations.
Yeah, that's a circular logic situation. You know, you can easily do the whole, are you mentally ill because you have hallucinations? You know, no, but I have hallucinations, so I must be mentally ill. Wait, what?
Yeah, exactly. Hallucination is sensory perceptions that appear in the absence of stimuli, according to medical news today. So there is hallucinations for every sense.
Yes.
You can have visual, auditory, olfactory, which is smell, gustatory, which is taste, which I'm like, can I please hallucinate some cookies?
I know, right?
Because hallucinated cookies won't make me fat. Or tactile, which is, of course, touch. Now, hallucinations are common among certain mental illnesses, like schizophrenia or neurocognitive disorders.
Bipolar.
Or mind-altering drugs like LSD can cause hallucinations, but they're not always due to those sorts of things, that it's a relatively common occurrence.
Yeah.
And that when you do studies like what they did in the British Journal of Psychiatry, and people admit that they don't have a diagnosis of mental illness, but they have had a hallucination of some sort, it kind of destigmatizes it a little bit.
It helps.
Yeah.
Well, things like lack of sleep, actually, insomnia, these kind of, some medical conditions can cause, you know. Right. And then some people have very active imaginations. And so sometimes we find it a problem with calling something a hallucination that somebody describes as a hallucination, but their experience of it is different than somebody else's experience of it, you know?
Right.
So it's a little, you know, it can be a little ambiguous when we say an hallucination. Like in the show, we feel like he sees Deb like legit, like from there, but actually that may be for the viewer. Right. This may be an internal monologue where he's just, you know how you hear somebody's voice in your head, you know? You just hear it. You can't let go of it. It's really your own voice echoing their words.
Yeah.
We don't know how much of that. So, you know, you as a viewer get to take that, you know, kind of liberty to decide how you want to do that. But
how
but
literal
I'm so
is
glad that she was there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah.
It made it way more fun.
Yeah. It's interesting that you say, talking about how it's processed in the brain, because some researchers believe that auditory hallucinations can be an effect of a short circuit in processing internal speech and differentiating that speech from out loud speech. So when you hear speech out loud, you process it one way. And when you hear speech in your head, like your own thoughts or whatever, then you process it a different way. And if your brain confuses those, it's like a hallucination.
Right. So you've heard somebody else's voice, but it's actually your thoughts.
Right.
Which is so like scary.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it can really teach us a lot about our brains.
Yeah.
And how when we think we hear something or we think we see something, you know, we see something out of the corner of our eye. Is it our brain trying to make sense of that thing that it didn't really see, but it's trying to decide if it's a threat or not?
Right. Or is it like a floater?
Right. It could just be a floater.
We're old enough now that we talk about those kind of things. So, you know.
Yeah. And then, you know, there's some people who hear voices that aren't necessarily bad. They don't necessarily tell you to do bad things, that they found.
Majority.
That a lot of people have voices that help them facilitate their goals that are not nefarious.
Well, and that's like, see, this is where crimey TV that we love so much can put a bad rap, because we get the impression that people with, like, say, schizophrenia who are hearing voices always hear these voices telling them to do bad things.
Right.
And actually, it's a very, very, very tiny percent of mentally ill individuals who are hearing voices telling them to do bad things. Mm-hmm. The bad things happen when the voices are so incessant about things that the person is breaking down.
Right.
And the person might get themselves in some kind of crimey trouble.
Right.
Usually because they're trying to hurt themselves to make this stop.
Yeah.
Not because they are hearing voices to go murder and kill and
Deb's
whatever.
Hallucination of Deb was very much telling him, don't do this.
Don't do this.
Don't do this. Don't mess up your life.
Mm-hmm. So there was a great meme. We're going to have to share it. Okay. If anybody watches Ozarks, have you watched Ozarks? All right. Ruth. Mm-hmm. And so it was a tag up. Who cusses better? Ruth or Deb? Uh-huh. That was a great thread.
Oh, I'm going to have to find that because we quote Ruth on a regular basis, and it's something I cannot say on the show.
But it was a great thread. I was like, oh, that's good. It's so cathartic, y'all.
Yeah.
All right.
So Dexter was able to refrain from murdering people and live as Jim with his dark passenger. I know, like, the bar is so low for poor Dexter. Just don't kill anybody.
Oh, sorry, buddy.
But he was able to keep his dark passenger from pressuring him too intensely because he established a routine for himself.
Yes.
And that routines can be very beneficial to your mental health.
Yes, they are. As much as a lack of routine can be not good and provide lots of negative consequences.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. NYCtherapy.com put this article out in September of 2020, which seems germane to what was happening at the time so that people didn't hurt themselves.
Yeah.
But they're really essential at every age. Routines are. They help us cope with change, create healthy habits, improve interpersonal relationships, and reduce stress. So when you have a predictable scenario and habits, it allows your mind to not be stressed by a lot of change. So when change does happen, you're able to handle it better.
Yeah, I think people really underestimate this. People feel like if they're going to be a routine that they won't rise to challenge, or that if they're in a routine, they won't be able to do the uncomfortable thing. Like we also talk about getting outside of your comfort zone, do something new. You got to think about it like a tree. A routine is the roots growing deeper and wider so that your branches can grow taller and wider. Mm-hmm. So if you don't have much of a routine, you're a very small, skinny tree.
Right. And you can get knocked over easy.
If you've got a good routine, you're going to build up far more places to have center of gravity, and your branches are going to go much further, and you can actually do far more things that are outside of your routine.
Super fair.
Yeah. And if routine is not the same thing as a schedule.
Right.
So when my son, my oldest was a baby, he was hypersensitive, which is a little, it's colic adjacent.
Okay.
So it's not like he couldn't be calmed down, but it was also all day. So, so you had to kind of balance it. And so a routine was very important for him, but that doesn't mean I did get to pretty good schedule, but you can't always,
right?
You got to do things. And so what I had was for each element of the day, there's a routine for each thing. So say I need to put him down for a nap an hour and a half early. That's fine. I start the routine for the nap. He's done.
Yeah.
Right. He doesn't know it's like 11 instead of 1:30. Right.
Yeah.
Because I'm getting him into nap early so we can go do a long thing in the afternoon. Like he didn't know. But so don't pigeonhole yourself to a time. Routine is not a time. Routine is a structure of doing certain things.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's super great. Now time can have a factor in that, but
it
doesn't have to.
Right. You don't need to be pigeonholed to it.
They talk about how to create a healthy routine. Don't just decide to shake up your whole routine all at once, because you're not going to be very successful. It's going to be difficult to keep it up. It's not going to provide you that relief from the stress. It's going to cause more stress. So they're like, pick a few things, do 1 or 2 things each week.
Yep.
And add them to your routine. Make them a routine. Yep. Make them part of your day. Something predictable. And then you add in another thing or change another thing.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the other mistake people make, I don't know if they mention it, is people who are trying to get into more of a routine start by getting rid of things.
Okay.
That doesn't work. You can't get rid of something that's bad in your life without replacing it with something good. Yeah. So, you can't just like, I need a better routine for nighttime. So I'm just going to not eat that snack right before bedtime. No. You have to add things to the routine and then let them squeeze out.
Right. Yeah.
Because otherwise you're not focused on the right thing.
Right.
And it'll be really hard to switch. You have to give yourself an incentive.
Right.
To want to change your whole culture.
Right.
Right. So.
And it takes time.
It takes time.
Yep. And then, only because I don't really know where else this fits, but I really loved it. Dexter gets a call from his girlfriend, and she's like, "Where are you? You said you'd be at this event." Mm-hmm. And he says, "Oh, I can't come. A fox got in the hen house." And I was like, well, that's so funny because he literally had chickens.
Yeah, he did.
So he was kind of trying to make her believe that was a literal thing that happened, because it is a literal thing that happens in particularly rural places, or anywhere with a hen house can end up with a fox in it at some point. But that's not what really happened. He just killed Matt. A predator was literally loose among the prey. Yeah. And I just thought it was so apt for him to, it was so made him, he was so aware that this was the dark passenger set free, loose among this tiny town. Yeah. And he didn't know how to get rid of the fox.
That's pretty
interesting. He's never known how to get rid of the fox.
That's a good one. I like that.
I was like,
that is really good.
I'm like, I'm not, don't use the cliches too much, but this use of it, I really liked it.
That's very true.
Yeah. Real life.
Real life. All right, hit me up. What you got?
All right. So, okay. This one I picked just for you.
Oh my goodness. I can't wait.
Okay, because it really wasn't a thing in the show, hardly. Early in the episode, Dexter goes to the downtown area in the evening. Mm-hmm. I think in the evening. No, maybe it was in the morning time. I'm trying to remember if it was day or night. I don't know. He goes to the downtown. Okay. And there's a Iron Lake High Christmas tree drive.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm like, okay. So I don't understand what they're doing. Are they is the Christmas tree drive and that they have a bunch of Christmas trees they're selling? To make money for the school? Mm-hmm. Or are they trying to collect Christmas trees to give to less fortunate? Drives are usually when you have a canned food drive.
Right, you're bringing it in.
You're not selling it to make money. So it seemed weird to me.
Oh, yeah. I guess I assumed they were selling Christmas trees. But you're right, that would be a weird way to say that.
It would be a weird way to say it. So I was like, well, don't some organizations do Christmas tree drives where they actually collect Christmas trees for some reason? Oh, yes, the Elephant Sanctuary in Tennessee does this.
Why?
Because the elephants consume about 150 pounds of fruit, vegetables, grain, and plant materials every single day, each elephant. And Christmas trees contain a sweet resin that's high in nutrients.
So it really was a drive.
It was a drive.
And they can donate it to the...
They collected them from December 26th of 2021 till January 8th of 2022 to feed the elephants.
Oh, my goodness. And that's where Dexter got the little Christmas tree he throws up last minute.
Oh, yes, I think so.
As he stole it from the drive, basically.
Right.
Which is... Aha! That's a good one.
Yeah.
I like it.
I was like,
they're sweet and elephants like them.
Yeah, elephants like the sweet resin that's in Christmas trees.
So it does smell good.
Well, that's a better drive.
That's a better drive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. See, we didn't sell, so in our high school, I don't know what it was for you, for fundraisers. Mm-hmm. Our big high school fundraiser was onions. Vidalia.
Oh, that
Vidalia onions. We were in Georgia, so
right.
Vidalia onions, and people would buy like, when I say a bushel, I mean a bushel, but I mean like master packs of bushels, and you could get 10, 20, 30 pounds of these things.
Jeez. Mm-hmm. Wow.
I miss it.
The sweet Vidalia onions.
Oh, Vidalia onions is just nothing like it.
No, they're so good.
They're so good.
so hard to get here.
They are hard to get here.
Yeah. Like true, sweet, delicious onions.
Yeah, I mean, we have sweet onions, but Vidalia onion is a type of sweet onion that's only grown in Vidalia, Georgia.
Right. Well, so and it tastes a certain way because of the soil.
Yes, and it's a whole thing. So.
Yeah. So Frank Jr., owner of the sporting goods store where Dexter/Jim works, and his husband Brian are going to have a busy week because they're adopting a dog. But it looks like, according to out.com, that this is a really good thing for their relationship.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, the pet sitting website rover.com found that adopting a dog improves LGBTQ plus couple relationships.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yep.
Well, I feel like it's good for any couple make that next step.
Sure.
But particularly then for this. That's awesome.
2/3 of couples found that their relationship was stronger, and 56% said they spent more time together after they got a dog. So, like, good for the relationship. Yeah.
Always
good
fun.
job, Frank and Brian.
Yes, that's right.
Congratulations on Garfield.
I know, it's so cute.
It's really cute.
Okay, every time you say Frank Jr., because I'm a Friends fan, I think Frank Jr. Jr.
Oh, Frank Jr. Yup. Wouldn't that be Frank the Third? Do not get me started. So we never get a reason for the flag on Matt Caldwell's gun purchase. But
we don't?
No, we never find out for sure.
That it's related?
That it's related to the Ohio boat thing.
I guess I assumed.
We don't know that for sure.
Oh, interesting.
We never really learn why it got the flag. We just know that it ended up cleared.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. TheTrace.org had an article about why Americans will fail their background checks.
Okay.
It is extraordinarily rare for the gun background check system to make a mistake.
Okay.
It's 99.8% accurate.
Woo. Dang.
Yeah. So it's very good. So if you're convicted by a crime of a prison sentence of more than 1 year or a misdemeanor that could have a prison sentence of more than 2 years, you cannot buy a gun.
Okay.
Evidently, fugitives from justice will go and try and buy guns. A surprising number of people who run from open arrest warrants walk into gun stores and try to buy firearms.
Oh, bless their heart.
Yeah. If you're unlawful user or addicted to a controlled substance, you can't buy a gun, though out of all of the records in the FBI database, there's only 24,000 that are related to that. So it's a very small number.
Well, it's not system is not
right
for reporting that.
Right.
Which you hit HIPAA and you hit all kinds of things. So it's just hard.
I mean, do we really need to say, you got caught with a 1/4 ounce of pot?
I mean, exactly. But like if you're actively, like if you've been in rehab within a certain amount of time, there's no way to report that that's happening because that's HIPAA. Mm-hmm. Except that's the person that you'd be more concerned about because, for instance, suicide rate in the first week leaving recovery or rehab is super high.
Yeah.
So that should be a great time for the flag to come in and be like, "Oh, let's take a breath here." But no.
Yeah. Yep. So. A domestic violence conviction.
Oh, this is another one.
Even a misdemeanor.
This is another one that's not reported well.
It's not reported well.
Especially
but if there is
agencies.
Yes, if there is a domestic violence conviction of any kind, all the way down to a misdemeanor level, which should there be domestic violence of misdemeanor level? I don't know. Maybe it's just I got mad and threw a chair and not a beating situation. I don't know. But none of those.
And we know how, I mean, we're in Texas.
Right.
We've experienced the issue. The Air Force got hit real hard for not reporting domestic violent convictions, and then Sutherland Springs. So.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. There are state prohibitions, so the states may have their own additional things that they can add on. If you're under indictment...
Okay, yeah.
Anything carrying a year or longer jail sentence, even if you haven't been convicted, while you're under indictment, you can't buy a weapon.
Okay.
Protective and restraining orders for domestic violence. So this is the one thing that where we actually, like, it's worthwhile for someone to go ahead and get that protective order, because if it's reported, then it will keep them from buying a weapon.
Yeah, that's smart. That's smart. That is a reason.
Yeah. Adjudicated mental health. So just having a diagnosis of a severe mental illness isn't enough. It has to be declared by a judge saying you're unfit to own a weapon.
Right. Fair.
Unlawful resident of the United States cannot buy a weapon, which makes sense. Federally denied person file, which is interesting. It means that the FBI can determine that someone is not eligible to buy a weapon and not disclose why.
Ooh, how so secret squirrel. How like black files.
Yes.
You're blacklisted.
So, they're just like, we don't have to tell you why, but they're in our list.
Boy, if I worked at a gun store and like, if they told you, I don't know if they tell you, and then like that kind of flag came up, I'd be like, run!
Yeah, for sure. Dishonorable discharge from the military, or if you've renounced your United States citizenship.
Yep.
All of that makes sense.
All of it makes sense.
So I remember this. In July of 2020, a whole bunch of teachers sent out tweets about quitting teaching.
Okay.
So it's all started with this lady, Abby Norman. And she tweeted, I quit my teaching job and now make more bartending for 15 hours less a week. I also get blamed for way less and get told thank you way, way more. No lesson plans or grading papers. Remember this when people ask about the teacher shortage.
Ooh.
And I remember when that one went viral.
Okay.
Because holy moly, did teachers come out of the woodwork. One talks about how they doubled their salary by going back into IT. They had found that they had decided, IT was too stressful and went to teaching. And exactly. And they were like, no. One lady quit her teaching job and started nannying because, hey, she's a qualified teacher. Makes her a great nanny, and she made twice as much per hour and worked 2/3 of the time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Come on, y'all.
Yep. And a lot of number of teachers talked about how it's harder to go back every year, and that they go because they love seeing the kids.
Yeah.
But that takes a while. It takes a lot. You have to really want to see those kids to be able to put up with all the baloney. So it was interesting. The Daily Dot has a whole article about all of these tweets, and it's so understandable and heart-wrenching at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, last thing. So
okay, what you got?
Jim/Dexter initially denies being Dexter when his son Harrison finds him.
Oh, yeah.
He says, I have a familiar face. Hey, just like me.
You have
I have a familiar face. And you know what? That's good news for the both of us.
Okay. Oh, tell me about this.
Steam It had an article. Hey, do I know you from somewhere? Having a familiar face may say about you.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Turns out that having a familiar face indicates that people are more likely to find you happier and more attractive.
You know what? True and true.
I was like,
done and done.
Well, all right then.
You got it.
I'd like to have a familiar face.
Yeah. Checkbox. You are that.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely.
So a professor, doctor at UC San Diego, Dr. Winkelman.
Oh.
Winkelman. Winkielman.
Oh, I like the last one. It's pretty.
Winkielman.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay. Said, our brains like familiar things. They tend to be safer. And if I see someone again, they haven't eaten me yet. He's going back all the way down into the lizard brain.
Yep.
I haven't been eaten by this familiar thing.
Hey.
Therefore,
you're safe.
You're safe.
Well,
I'm like, excellent.
Well, never has evolution failed to anyone but in Dexter Morgan.
Fair. All right, so next time we're going to do a Netflix original about a con artist, or maybe she's an entrepreneur. Oh, it's almost unbelievable and mostly true story. Inventing Anna.
Yeah, I can't wait to watch this.
I mean,
I have not watched it yet, but
no,
every time I open Netflix and it's like right there, and I'm like,
I gotta watch it. I'm like, I don't have time to watch it the way I need to watch it for Killer Fun, so I'm not gonna watch it yet. No. But now I have to make time.
Yes, so we will make time. So you go make time.
That's right.
And then we can all enjoy this together.
That's right. And until next time, be safe, be kind, and wash your hands.
Da, da, da.